we're going to start the show with take number one. It is our first play, and we're talking about the college football playoff, which is now going into the quarterfinal round and begins on New Year's Eve. We've got 4 matchups. After seeing a very lackluster first round, we now have the quarterfinal round. The first is the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl between number 5 Texas and number 4 Arizona State. That game will be at noon. Texas is currently a 12.5-point favorite. And then on New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve night, we have in the Verbal Fiesta Bowl, Penn State and Boise State going at it, 6:30 p.m. Penn State is an 11.5-point favorite. And then on New Year's Day, the 4 o'clock kick is the first one where we will see Ohio State and Oregon in a rematch in the Rose Bowl. That at 4 p.m. Ohio State is a 2.5-point favorite. And then in the nightcap, the All-State Sugar Bowl, where we will be in the house watching that game. Notre Dame and Georgia going at it, where UGA is only a 1.5-point favorite. That game kicking off at 7:45. So with all of those games lined up for you, Elijah, we see 2 games that could potentially be some blowouts. Which one do you think will be the best matchup? And ultimately, what team do you think will get the biggest upset out of all of it?
It's a good question, man, because I don't think Notre Dame win, but I think it'll be closer than what people may think. I still think it'll be a double-digit game, a 10-point game, but I think it'll be like a late 10-point game, not like a blow up through the whole thing. But I think Georgia wins by 10. So I think the only team I feel like that could really upset somebody is Ohio State. I think Ohio State is the only team I think can pull off an upset against Oregon because they had them on the ropes the first time they played. It was a shootout. I think Ohio State and Oregon is the Spider-Man meme, pointing at each other, how they do things offensively and defensively. And when it comes to pure talent, I think they both have the same things. When it comes to running backs, a couple of DBs and safeties. The only thing that is a mismatch is the quarterback position for Ohio State. But when it comes to receivers and stuff, you can do the same. So I think Ohio State, if they play their cards right, the way they played against Tennessee, I think they're the only team that could pull off an upset. No offense to Boise State. I hope Ashton runs for 300 yards and that 60-10 loss that they're probably about to take to Penn State. But I just think that I don't see that upsetting anyone. I just think that it's not going to be close there. Arizona, I don't see them. Arizona State, I should say. I don't think they're going to beat Texas. So, again, I just think Oregon and Ohio State will be the best matchup of the two. And I can't wait to see what Oregon does to see if they can, it's hard to beat the same team twice. I want to see how they go out there and do it. Do they use more of the same game plan they had the first time? Do they pull out wrinkles with trick plays because they had a week off and stuff like that? And for Ohio State, how do you stay motivated? I mean, because when they're not motivated, they lose to a team that they should have probably beat, like Michigan. And then when they are motivated, you see them beat the bricks off of not the top, but one of the top teams in the SEC in Tennessee, who made the playoff. They beat the bricks off of them. So it's like, what Ohio State team we're going to get. And I think that's what determines what would be the upset.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with you on the Ohio State and Oregon matchup being the best one out of the 4 that we're going to see. And I also agree with the fact that Ohio State is one of the better teams to have an opportunity to get an upset. Because if you go back and look at the last time that they played when it was a 1-2 or a 2-3 matchup, both teams came in, they were undefeated. And Oregon took a lead 32-31, which ultimately would be the final. They took that lead after a 13 or 11 play drive, and they drove it all the way down the field and left about 1:40 on the clock. Ohio State had the ball and an opportunity to go down and score it to win the game. They had a 15-yard penalty, a pass interference call on Jeremiah Smith that derailed that drive, and they ultimately ran out of time to have a shot at winning the game. So that's their motivation. You talked about how will they be motivated. Ryan Day's going to walk in their room and say, hey, guys, we played sloppy, and we did that and still had a chance to win the game. If we come out and play our best brand of football, we're going to beat the number 1 team in the country, and then we might have a clear path to a national championship game. For Ryan Day also, it's an opportunity for him to silence a lot of the doubters that have been talking about him. You've had people out there to say that he should be let go if they don't get to the national championship game. because of the fact that he hasn't beaten Michigan in all 4 years, which I understand. At Ohio State, that's a game that you're supposed to win. You take those jobs to compete for national championships and to beat Michigan. I understand that. But right now, Ohio State is playing and Michigan is at the crib with Bryce Underwood. Like, that's the difference. You know what I'm saying? When you look at the fact that this team has an opportunity to compete and play for a national championship right now, that shows you that Ryan Day is doing his job at a very high level, because otherwise they would also be at the house with Michigan. But they're not. They're getting a chance to play against the number one team in the country, a Heisman finalist, and a guy that has played extremely well this year in Dylan Gabriel. Will Howard has played really well for the team this season. And that run game between Quinshon Judkins and Trey Henderson have been a good tandem for Ohio State. So that's going to be fun to watch, to see how those guys are able to come out on top. If they are able to come out on top in that game, it'll be a fun one. I'm looking forward to that one, and to the games where, you know, they're projected blowouts, whether it's Boise State and Penn State, Texas and Arizona State. You know, I'm hoping that those guys put up a better fight in those games, but I don't know, man. It might get ugly early. I'm hoping that it doesn't, because I want to see some good games. And you know me, I love seeing an upset and all that stuff like that. But in this case, Texas might be seated lower, Penn State might be seated lower, but they are not the underdogs in this game at all. So I would love to see Boise State win. I would love to see Arizona State win, but I don't know if that will happen. And I also would like to see Notre Dame win, but I don't know if that will happen. You know, like I said, UGA is only favored by 1.5, mainly because Carson Beck is out for that game, so they're going to be starting a freshman. But that's still Georgia. That's still Kirby Smart coaching across the field from Marcus Freeman. So we shall see. We'll have our eyes set on the college football playoff starting on New Year's Eve. And then once that is over, we have our semifinal games that will be on January 9th and 10th, with the national championship game being on January the 20th. Thank you so much for watching this clip of the Fitz Take podcast. Be sure to like this video and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. And also follow me and Elijah on our social media platforms. They will be linked down in the description. And remember, every episode of the Fitz Take podcast will air right here on the YouTube channel every Monday at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.